Hello everyone and welcome to the weird, scary and horrible parts of humanity. Today we are looking at the main perpetrator of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing and the bombing of Philippine Airlines Flight 434 and a co-conspirator in the failed Bojinka Plot, Ramzi Yousef. Abdul Basit Muhammad Abdul Karim was born on the 27th of April 1968 in Kuwait with Ramzi Ahmed Yousef a pseudonym. His early life is a bit of an anomaly. His father is believed to be Abdul Karim from Balochistan, Pakistan, and his mother is believed to be the sister of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is a Kuwaiti Pakistani militant and the former head of propaganda for Al-Qaeda, and was named as the principal architect of the 9/11 attacks in the 2004 9/11 Commission report. He is currently held in Guantanamo Bay. In 1986, at the age of 18, Yousef enrolled at Swansea Institute, now Swansea Metropolitan University in Wales, where he studied electrical engineering, graduating in 1990. He also studied at the Oxford College of Further Education, a further education college in Oxford, in order to improve his English. Leaving the United Kingdom in 1990, he went to Pakistan to join a terrorist training camp of Al-Qaeda in Peshawar. It was while he was there that the plans of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing would come to fruition, with conspirators besides Yousef including Ahmed Al-Jaj, Muhammad Abu Alima, Mohammed A. Salama, Ayad Ismaili, Nidal Ayad and Abdul Rahman Yassin. On the 31st of August 1992, he flew Pakistan International Airlines Flight 703 from Peshawar, Pakistan to Karachi and then on to New York John F. Kennedy Airport, flying first class in an attempt to avoid detection. He would arrive in New York John F. Kennedy Airport on the 1st of September 1992. Pakistan International Airlines no longer flies to the United States of America. Travelling on a fake Iraqi passport, he entered the United States of America without a visa. To this day, Iraq is one of the worst passports in the world, ranking 101 in the world with visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to only 30 countries. And to this day, citizens of Iraq require a visa to travel to the United States of America. However, Yousef was travelling with Ahmed Al-Jaj, who was also involved in orchestrating the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Both sat separately on board Pakistan Airlines Flight 703 and appeared to travel separately. Al-Jaj was carrying bomb manuals from Al-Qaeda, videotapes of suicide car bombers, and a cheat sheet on how to lie to US immigration inspectors in his luggage, as well as a counterfeit entry stamp for Pakistan. Both had their travel organised by Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, a former resident of New York who was the leader of Al-Jama'ah al-Islamiyah. Abdel Rahman was also responsible for orchestrating the Luxor massacre on the 17th of November 1997, which saw 62 people killed in Luxor, Egypt. However, by that stage he was in prison, having been sentenced to life in solitary confinement without parole in 1996. He died from diabetes and coronary artery disease in FMC Butner in North Carolina on the 18th of February 2017. However, a judge was allegedly a decoy for Yousef to enter the United States of America, as the then United States Immigration and Naturalization Service focused all of their attention on a judge. Taken to secondary immigration inspection, Yousef presented his fake Iraqi passport, which he claimed he had purchased for $100, with one report noting that he had spent $2,700 on the passport. He claimed that he was fleeing Saddam Hussein and was claiming asylum, having been beaten by Iraqi soldiers as a member of a Kuwaiti guerrilla organization. Bearing in mind that this was shortly after the First Gulf War, with Kuwait liberated from Iraq on the 28th of February 1991 during the First Gulf War, and Saddam Hussein was still in power in Iraq. Interrogated by INS Inspector Martha Morales, it was found that he had a boarding pass under the name Mohammed Azan, an identity card from the Al-Bunyan Islamic Center in Arizona with his photo, and the name Quram Khan, under which a judge had travelled. He also signed the back of his card Ramzi Ahmed Yousef. He also had cheques from Lloyd's Bank of London, which is an absolute shitbag by the way, do not use them, and an address book listing unusual places to visit in the United States of America. With his passport confiscated, he said that his real name was Ramzi Yousef and said that he was born in the United Arab Emirates and a citizen of Pakistan, neither of which were true. Morales wanted to detain Yousef, but her supervisor overruled her as the INS detention centre was full, even though he had committed immigration fraud, lied to immigration inspectors, and the inspectors tried to link him to Ahmad Ajaj, but were unsuccessful in proving any link between the two. Claiming political asylum, Yousef was allowed into the United States of America. However, a judge was questioned for 8 hours, and at 5 a.m. on the 2nd of September 1992, he was handed over by the INS to Watch and Hunt Correctional Corporation for incarceration in a converted warehouse in Queens. Ultimately, a judge would request asylum in Houston, Texas, and he would be released from prison 3 days after the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. On the 1st of March 1993, rearrested in connection to the attacks on the 9th of March 1993, denied asylum on the 24th of April 1993, and sentenced to 240 years in prison, reduced to 84 years, which is currently serving in the USP at Terre Haute in Terre Haute, Indiana. Held for 72 hours by the Jersey City Police, Yousef was given a hearing date of the 9th of November 1992. On the 31st of December 1992, the Pakistani consulate in New York issued him a temporary passport under SAAG 484-2002. He travelled around New York and New Jersey making phone calls to Omar Abdel Rahman, and between the 3rd and 27th December 1992 he made numerous conference calls to Balochistan in Pakistan. He moved into a home on Pamrapo Avenue in Jersey City. It was there, along with Mohammed A. Salamia and Mohammed Abdullahima, that he began assembling a 1,500 pound or 680 kilogram urea nitrate fuel oil device to deliver to the World Trade Center. Salamia is currently serving an 84-year sentence at FCI Marion in Marion, Illinois for his role in the 1993 World Trade Center attack, while Abdullahima is serving a 78-year and 4-month sentence at FDX Florence in Florence, Colorado. On the 29th of December 1992, a judge told Yousef in code by phone that he won release of the bomb manuals but warned Yousef not to jeopardize his business. On the 3rd of November 1992, Mohammed transferred $660 by wire transfer from Qatar to Salamia, but according to the 9/11 Commission report, he was not extensively involved in the financing of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. As 1992 and 1993 rolled along, Yousef was in 3 car accidents caused by Salamia. He sounds like an even worse driver than I am, and I took 5 attempts to get my license, causing hospitalization and even ordered chemicals from his hospital room. In 2002, co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, Abdul Rahman Yassin, who is currently on the run, was interviewed by 60 Minutes on CBS as the only 1993 World Trade Center bomber to never be caught, and noted that Yousef initially wanted to bomb either Crown Heights or Williamsburg to target Jews living in New York, but changed his mind and decided to target the World Trade Center. Renting a Ryder van on the 26th of February 1993, Yousef loaded it with powerful explosive, 4 cardboard boxes containing a mix of paper bags, newspapers, urea and nitric acid, 3 metal cylinders of compressed hydrogen, and 4 large containers of nitroglycerin with Atlas Rockmaster blasting caps connecting each. The van was then driven to the North Tower of the World Trade Center, where it was parked in the car park. It exploded at 12:18 p.m. The World Trade Center was relatively full at the time, despite being lunchtime, as many stayed in for lunch on a cold winter day. Approximately 50,000 people were in the World Trade Center at the time. In total, a combined 6 people died in the bombing and 1,042 people were injured, and $500 million of damage was inflicted on the World Trade Center. However, it was intended that both the North and South Tower would collapse in the bombing. Of the 6 people killed, 1 was a visitor, 1 was a Windows on the World employee, and 4 were members of the Port Authority's World Trade Department, which included 1 pregnant woman. Of those injured, 88 were firefighters and 35 were police officers. The explosion knocked out the electrical power to the Marriott Hotel in the World Trade Center in significant areas within the North and South Towers, affecting the operation of elevators, emergency communication, ventilation systems, and lighting. Emergency power generators were damaged by the blast and shut down after 20 minutes. However, the 9/11 Memorial speculates that as a result of improvements made to the World Trade Center following the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, including improved fire escape exits, countless people were able to have their lives saved on 9/11. According to the FBI, Al-Qaeda was indirectly involved in the bombing, with Al-Qaeda merely laying the groundwork and training Yousef in bomb making. But unlike 9/11, it was not an Al-Qaeda attack. Yousef was able to use his Pakistani passport to escape from the United States of America hours later to Iraq and into Pakistan, and was added to the 10 most wanted fugitives list on the 21st of April 1993. According to the 9/11 Commission report, the notoriety gained by Yousef inspired Muhammad to plan the 9/11 attacks. Going into hiding, he took up a contract in September 1993 to kill then Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto. This was orchestrated by Sipah-e-Sababa Pakistan, now Alaya Sunat wal Jamaat, a Sunni Deobandi Islamist organization turned political party in Pakistan. Yousef orchestrated the bombing attempt with Abdul Hakim Murad, a Pakistani Islamist terrorist who was a co-conspirator in the Bojinka Plot, which we'll come back to in a minute. On Yousef's personal laptop, he went by Obaid. He was sentenced to life in prison on the 16th of May 1998 and is currently serving his time in USP Victorville. However, they were both interrupted by police outside Prime Minister Bhutto's residence, and Yousef aborted the mission, and the bomb blew up as they were trying to recover the bomb, with both able to escape. However, Yousef wasn't done. On the 20th of June 1994, the Imam Reza Shrine in Mashhad, Iran, was crowded with self-flagellating mourners celebrating Ashura, one of the holiest days for Shia Muslims, and gathered to commemorate the death of the third Imam Hussein ibn Ali, a social, political, and religious leader in early medieval Arabia who died on the 10th of October 680. At 2:26 p.m, a bomb with 10 pounds of TNT, or 4.5 kilograms of TNT, exploded in the prayer hall in the women's section of a shrine, becoming what the Independent newspaper called the first attack on such a holy place and the worst terrorist attack in Iran since 1981. Between 25 and 26 people died, and between 70 and 200 people were injured. Now, what caused the bombing is speculated. A Sunni group, Al-Haraka al-Islamiyya al-Iraniya, claimed responsibility for the bombing 1 month later. The Iranian government claimed that the People's Mujahideen of Iran, now the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, and one of the main political actors among Iranian opposition groups, was responsible for the attack, despite the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran condemning the attacks and claiming no responsibility for the attacks. Indeed, a trial in November 1999 of Abdullah Nouri, who was then a member of Parliament of Iran and previously Minister of Interior before taking back the role in 1997, said that it was a false flag attack by the Iranian regime to blame the People's Mujahideen of Iran. However, it is widely believed that Yousef was responsible, with an anonymous US official telling NBC's Rock Center with Brian Williams in 2012 that Yousef built the bomb and agents of the People's Mujahideen of Iran placed the bomb there. Raymond Tanter, a member of the United States National Security Council under President Ronald Reagan, believes that Yousef was the perpetrator and that the People's Mujahideen of Iran was not involved. In September 1994, Muhammad would meet Yousef in Karachi, Pakistan. Yousef planned to assassinate President Bill Clinton during his trip to Manila in the Philippines in November 1994, and to bomb US-bound cargo aircraft using smuggling jackets containing nitroclulius on board, but this did not come to pass. But Yousef planned an attack which the CIA said would have been 48 hours of terror in January 1995, targeting Pope John Paul II, 11 airliners, and the CIA headquarters. Had it been successful, it would have killed up to 4,000 people, more than 9/11. The funding for this project came from Osama bin Laden, Ghidwan Izamuddin, known by Jambali, the former military leader of Jamaat Islamiyah, who is currently in Guantanamo Bay, and the front organizations operated by Bin Laden's brother-in-law Mohammed Jamal Khalifa, who was killed in Madagascar on the 31st of January 2007. Wali Khan Amin Shah also financed the plot and was imprisoned from 1995 to 2021. However, it was decided that Yousef would do a test run in the Philippines. Yousef created a counterfeit Italian passport using the identity of Arnaldo Forlani, an alteration of the name Arnaldo Forlani, the Prime Minister of Italy between the 18th of October 1980 and the 28th of June 1981. On the 11th of December 1994, he arrived at Manila Ninoy Aquino Airport and boarded Philippine Airlines Flight 434, operated by a Boeing 747-283BM Combi, with the flight going from Manila to Tokyo, Japan via Cebu in the Philippines. The flight departed at 5:35 a.m. and once airborne, Yousef went into the lavatory with his toiletry bag, took off his shoes to get out batteries, wiring and spark source hidden in the hill below a level where the metal detectors in use could not detect the spark source. Using a modified Casio databank digital watch from his wrist to use as a timer, he unpacked the remaining materials from his toiletry bag and assembled the bomb. Setting the time for 4 hours later, he moved to seat 26K based on a misunderstanding that this was where the fuel tank was located, which was not the case with this Boeing 747, but was the case with other Boeing 747s. The flight from Manila to Cebu was 1 hour and 15 minutes, and he exited the aircraft in Cebu at 6:50 a.m., which was attested to by the domestic cabin crew working that route. Delayed by 38 minutes, the aircraft departed Cebu at 8:38 a.m., with 24-year-old Japanese citizen Haruki Ilegami occupying seat 26K. The bomb went off at 11:43 a.m. Japan Standard Time, 4 hours after Yousef planted the bomb. Immediately after the bomb, a mayday call was placed with the aircraft able to land at Okinawa, Japan. 10 passengers were injured and Ilegami was killed. Manila police were able to track the batteries used in the bomb and many of the contents of the bomb to Manila. It was found that the contents used in the bomb were liquid nitroglycerin, disguised as a bottle of contact lens fluid. Despite the aircraft landing in Okinawa, ultimately it was considered a success. Yousef returned to Manila, where he began preparing at least a dozen bombs, each with more explosive materials and 10 times the size of the bombs used on Philippine Airlines Flight 434. However, a fire started in his Manila flat, Unit 603 in Donna Josefa, on 6 January 1995, forcing him to leave the apartment and leave the bombs behind. The fire made apartment staff suspicious, and the Philippine National Police, led by Ida Fariscal, raided the apartment. However, the Los Angeles Times reported that the fire was deliberately planted by the Philippine National Police to gain access to the apartment. They also raided another apartment which showed that Murad and Mohammed, as well as Yousef, had drawn up plans to fly a plane into the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. This was passed on to the FAA, who passed it on to numerous airlines. Ultimately, what Yousef along with Mohammed had planned was the Bojinka Plot. The Bojinka Plot was a three-phase terrorist attack in January 1995, which intended to be in 3 phases. The first was to assassinate Pope John Paul II on the 15th of January 1995 when he visited Manila during World Youth Day celebrations, whereby a suicide bomber would dress up as a priest while the Pope passed in his motorcade on his way to the San Carlos Seminary in Makati. The bomber would get close to Pope John Paul II and detonate his bomb. 20 men were trained by Yousef to carry out this attack. The next plan would take place between the 21st and 22nd of January 1995, using Philippine Airlines Flight 434 as a guinea pig, with Yousef, Shah, Murad and 2 operatives who are unknown to this day, leaving bombs on 11 US-bound airlines that stopped down throughout East Asia and Southeast Asia, with the aim for them to kill 4,000 people and target American airlines in order to impact Americans. They went by the code names Zayed for Yousef, Majibos for Shahad, Marroca for Murad, and Mirkas and Obaida for the unknown terrorists. At the time, with the Boeing 77 not yet in service and the Boeing 787 nowhere near development, and a lower emphasis on codeshare than today, US airlines operated bases in Asia and would fly to other parts of Asia and Southeast Asia from these bases, as well as connecting flights from other parts of Asia using US crew. At the time, United Airlines had a base in Tokyo Narita International Airport in Japan, while Northwest Airlines had bases in Tokyo Haneda Airport and Tokyo Narita International Airport, with the Tokyo Narita International Airport base taken over by Delta when Delta was merged with Northwest on the 31st of December 2009. This base was pretty massive, and by 2008 Northwest operated 19 direct routes from Tokyo Narita. In addition, United operated numerous feeder flights from Hong Kong, Seoul, South Korea, and Taipei, Taiwan, and Northwest operated feeder flights from Seoul. Delta also operated feeder flights in Southeast Asia at the time. Continental Airlines operated a similar system, but primarily flew under Continental Micronesia, their Guam-based subsidiary, through Honolulu and Guam. American Airlines did not serve Southeast Asia. Using the method for Philippine Airlines Flight 434, they were to take the inter-Asian flights, construct the bomb in the toilet, leave it in the life jacket, and then the plane was to be blown up over the Pacific. Yousef was to plant bombs on 3 flights. Firstly, a Northwest Airlines flight from Manila to Seoul to Los Angeles. Secondly, a United Airlines flight from Seoul to Taipei to Honolulu. And finally, a United Airlines flight from Bangkok to Taipei to San Francisco. Shah was to place bombs on United Airlines flights from Taipei to Tokyo to Los Angeles and Tokyo to Hong Kong to New York. Murad was to place bombs on Northwest flights from Manila to Tokyo to Chicago and Tokyo to Hong Kong to New York. The unknown Mirkas was to place bombs on a United Airlines flight from Manila to Seoul to San Francisco and a Delta Airlines flight from Seoul to Taipei to Bangkok. Finally, Al-Qaeda was planning to place the bomb on a United Airlines flight from Singapore to Hong Kong to Los Angeles, return to Singapore, and then place a second bomb on another United Airlines flight from Singapore to Hong Kong to San Francisco. The aim was for Yousef to disembark in Taipei, Majbos in Hong Kong, Morocco in Hong Kong, Mirkas in Taipei, and Al-Qaeda, having returned to Singapore, in Hong Kong. As you can see, they were planning on connecting onto other flights to get to their final Asian destination, allowing them to leave multiple bombs in multiple aircraft. They would all then fly to Pakistan. A third plan involved Murad either renting, buying or hijacking a small aeroplane, preferably a Cessna, and flying it into the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia. He had been trained as a pilot in North Carolina and was slated to be a suicide pilot. However, Yousef was forced to escape the Philippines to Pakistan and forced to abandon the Bojinka Plot. On the 31st of January 1995, he flew from Pakistan to Thailand and met with a South African associate, Istaike Parker, and told Parker to check in at Bangkok Dong Meong Airport, then Bangkok's main airport, as Bangkok Surabaya Airport had not been built. He was to fly on board a Delta and United Airlines flight. The bags were to be checked in to Delta and United flights, with the bombs timed to explode over populated areas of the United States of America. But Parker was too scared to go through and returned to Yousef's hotel in Bangkok and lied that employees at the airline cargo sections were asking for passports and fingerprints, making it too risky to go ahead with the plan. Desperate and the plan falling apart, Yousef called a friend with diplomatic immunity in Qatar, who was willing to take the suitcases to London and check them onto a flight to the United States of America, with the plan for the bomb to explode mid-flight and destroy the plane. Ultimately, the diplomatic immunity would ensure that the suitcases would be loaded on board the aircraft to the United States of America. According to Simon Reeve's 1998 book, The New Jackals, Ramzi Yousef, Osama bin Laden and the Future of Terrorism, this person's name was not revealed, but was a senior politician. and leading member of the establishment in Qatar, with Mohammed at the time a guest of a Qatari cabinet official. However, the suitcases were not checked in, and Yousef and Parker returned to Islamabad, Pakistan on the 2nd of February 1995. However, Parker would ultimately be his downfall, and he informed Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence and US Diplomatic Security Services of Yousef's location, leading Yousef's room number 16 at the Sulkaza guest house where he was staying to be raided before he could make it to Peshawar and to Al-Qaeda training camps. It was found that Yousef had chemical burns on his fingers with bomb components and children's toys and flight schedules for Delta and United. For the tip-off, Parker got $2 million from the Rewards for Justice program. Taken to New York by FBI agents, according to The Guardian, Yousef told them about the plan to kill President Clinton in Manila by blowing up his motorcade with a missile of explosives, but this plan was abandoned as the security was too tight. Yousef, however, insisted that Osama bin Laden was not behind the plot to kill President Clinton, but one of his co-defendants, Shah, said that the order to kill President Clinton in Manila came from bin Laden. Yousef was held in federal prison in New York. On the 5th of September 1996, Yousef and two co-conspirators were convicted for their role in the Bojinka Plot and sentenced by U.S. District Court Judge Kevin Duffy to life in prison without parole. On the 12th of November 1997, he was found guilty of masterminding the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. During his trial, he said, "Yes, I am a terrorist and I am proud of it. And I support terrorism so long as it was against the United States government and against Israel. Because you are more than terrorists. You are the one who invented terrorism and using it every day. You are liars, butchers and hypocrites." He also said that he was a proud terrorist. He was sentenced to life plus 240 years in prison for both bombings. In 1997, in an interview with CNN's Peter Bergen, Osama bin Laden said that he did not know Yousef, but that he knew his uncle Mohammed. According to the 9/11 Commission, Mohammed said under interrogation that Yousef was not a member of Al-Qaeda and never met bin Laden. However, the degree of a relationship between Yousef and bin Laden is truly unknown to this day. Ultimately, however, Simon Reeve would argue that Yousef was the mastermind of a 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Yousef is held at the high-security supermax prison in FDX Florence in Florence, Colorado. According to interviews between staff of FDX Florence and Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes on CBS in 2007, it was stated that while Yousef, who is in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day, is allowed to leave his cell for 1 hour a day of exercise, he initially refused to leave his cell for 1 hour a day for exercise, as this would necessitate a strip search, and he considers people touching him to be haram. So he was in his cell 24 hours a day. However, it was also revealed in that interview that he had converted to Christianity. The handcuffs that he was arrested with in Pakistan are on display at the FBI Museum in Washington, D.C. In 2011, Yousef and his lawyer, Bernard Kleinman, put in an appeal in court that his communication restrictions be lifted, as he argued that he was no longer a threat to national security, but this did not come to pass. Neither did another attempt in 2013. Thank you for watching. Please do yourself a favour and hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of when new videos come out. Also, why not hit that like button and leave a nice comment? It helps more than you know, and your support is truly appreciated. Until next time, stay awesome, stay classy, be kind to everyone you meet, have an amazing day, and remember the truth is always more interesting than fiction.